for still being there listening to us on Rock City 101.9 FM in the city of Abeokuta. Yes, the Daybreak Show, Citizens Forum from the voice of the people. This Monday, last Monday for the 7th month, year 2017, Dele Ayodo is my name.
And I am Tobi Joseph. Like I mentioned earlier, and then I will be here to look at this constitutional amendment provision, which the Senate has already passed, that will empower and of course allow INEC, the Independent National Electoral Commission, to conduct local government elections in Nigeria. Before this particular amendment to the 1999 Constitution, which has been amended severally, different groups, different social social activists, actually, or political activists, have called on this particular move that INEC should be saddled with the responsibility of conducting local government elections. Chief of the reasons is that the state independent electoral commissions are not truly independent, and they are always doing the bidding of the state governors or the state government in their respective domain. And this is why many believe that in a particular state where maybe PDP or APC is on power, it is almost certain that all the chairmanship and councillorship seats in that local government election will be won by the party in power. So this has put a question mark on the independence and integrity or credibility of the state independent electoral commissions. This particular new amendment to the constitution, which is given or transferring that power to INEC, seems to actually or is aimed at correcting this madness. But how far or how truly is INEC independent? Some are also pointing at some of the holes. How do you get the officials of INEC also into office? How are they selected? How are they not supposed to be elected? Who nominates the Rex? Who nominates the national commissioners of INEC? So they also believe that, well, this is just one leg of the solution. Another leg should be that national officers or national commissioners or resident electoral commissioners of INEC should also not get there with the input of either governors or government at all. This will lead to scrapping of state independent electoral commissions. But do you think this is the way to go? Will this solve all the endless hullabaloo that local government elections generate or create when local government elections are conducted?
Yes, I haven't said that, Toby. I think it's also important to add that this is just one of the several clauses that was treated by the National Assembly in the process of amending the Constitution. Well, the public reaction to this latest amendment is that Nigerians are really not satisfied with the assignment the National Assembly has done, and the Senate President appeared to have alluded to this when he was speaking with some group of young ones in his hometown, Kwara State, when he said this may not be the last one, when he was talking about the devolution of power, that they may have to also look at it. And of course, it is not the final post stop yet. It is not the point yet, because the president still have to append his signature to this before we can now say we have an amended constitution. Whether this will set through is another question, but before then, it is important that we look at what the loopholes that have been created or that have been blocked from this latest amendment that will continuously be yearning for Nigerians to amend that constitution. But some people too, to be our guests will be able to also add his voice to it. I've said that what we need is a comprehensive amendment of the constitution, while others say you can't just go all the time and begin to amend the constitution anytime you feel there is an issue to it. Whatever the position, which one do you think is correct? Well, time actually will tell. We have somebody who has that ample experience in what we are discussing. He's a lawyer, he's a politician, he's been a lawmaker, and of course, he has also been chairman of a local government. So that means he has also been tested by the State Independent Electoral Commission. Honourable Habeeb Ajayi, welcome to the Daybreak Show.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, Honourable Ajayi, 33 amendments to the Constitution. Of course, our focus today this morning is talking about the INEC conducting local government elections. Well, let me just find out from you your total assessment of that amendment exercise carried out by the National Assembly.
Well, amendment of 29 out of the 33, sections of the Constitution listed for amendment in the fourth constitutional amendment bill. First of all, we all know that the key aspects, some key aspects, let me put it that way, of the amendments, were left untouched. People continue to talk about this devolution of power, the amendment to the Land Use Act, for the reason best known to the National Assembly members, particularly the Senate. The feelings, from our people from the northern part of Nigeria, thinking that amending the Land Use Act is a call for what they call resource control, which for now they don't share that sentiment. Of course, the other aspect is the refusal to confirm the 35% affirmative action for women is also a serious concern to Nigeria. One would have thought that this amendment will provide us with the opportunity of commencing, the process of what Nigerians call restructuring. If you look at it critically, all we need to do is to find a way of bringing into what we call residual, bringing into the constitution what we call residual list, where the state will derive their power. I think what they ought to have done is to remove some items from the concurrent list and from the exclusive list of the, exclusive is for the federal government, concurrent is where the state and the federal will share some responsibilities and powers. Removing some from the exclusive as well as concurrent, and then create a residual list where a lot of powers, which we all know, you and I know very well, that there's too much concentration of power at the center. We put this one in the residual list, and from there we'll start the process of restructuring our country, Nigeria. But the lawmakers at the national level, feel otherwise, and I think there will always be a time in this country that will face the reality and be able to sit down. Some have said that the constitution lies against itself, being the product of the military. You and I do not have any input, of course, until very recently when we start amending it through our representatives. But the fact remains is that until we find time to sit down in this country, either by way of referendum or whatever we call it, and let's just have what we call people's constitution, where you and I can come out and say, I have an input. I sent representation to a constituent assembly, and at the end of the day, my view counted in the sense that a referendum was conducted to say yes or no to the provision of our constitution. But as it is, 29 out of 33. Let's see how it goes. One of them is the state's
independent scrapping of the state's independent electoral commission.
Well, it's scrapping because it is completely deleted by that amendment. Of course, as you have said, it will still go through the process of House of Assemblies in the various states of the Federation. I think 2/3, that's about 24, if I'm right. And that those 24 Houses of Assembly will need to confirm it by simple majority, not necessarily 2/3 of the House of Assembly, but it's 2/3 of the states in Nigeria, which will now be 24
states.
When they get to these 24 states, what it is required is simple majority.
So would they also do a clause by clause like we saw at the National Assembly?
No, what is expected is just to say, okay, the following has been listed as proposed amendments by the National Assembly. Then we'll now say, okay, item 1, clause so of sections this to read as follows, or section so the word SIEC, State Independent Electoral Commission, deleted, yes or no. That is the, of course you will also have some debates, but the question is whether you are farming or you are not. So that is as for the state assemblies.
Sorry, before we go into that, it's important to clear this for us. Do we have time in which these assemblies, House of Assembly, can work on it?
Well, I'm not aware of any constitutional provision that says when such bill gets to the state assembly, it must be, decided one way or the other by the members. I do not think that's that provision. But all along, I think what is expected is that the National Assembly will quickly send it to the state assembly, and I'm not sure we will have any assembly in Nigeria, state assembly, that will just put it in their cupboard or whatever you call it. No, certainly they must take decision one way or the other, because this concerns Nigeria. That is the process. That is the essence of their being there. They have to say one or two things to it, so they can't just go and put it in the shelf. It must be decided as soon as it gets to them.
Now, okay, sorry, Tobi. Now, okay, Tobi, your question.
Okay, Honourable Habeeb Ajayi, to the crux of the matter, scrapping of SIEC and empower INEC to conduct local government elections. That seems to be the popular demand and opinion. But would this sell through, going by the fact that many of the houses of assembly are not truly independent? Will the governors who actually superintend over this House of Assembly allow this amendment to scale through?
Well, if peradventure the state assembly are saying no to that proposal, with due respect to them, they will be acting contrary to the wishes of the people. Now, why do I say this? Look at the pattern of voting, on the deletion of the State Independent Electoral Commission, even from the Senate. 73 voted in favor, 19 voted against, I think 1 abstained or something. That shows the trend. That shows the demand. So for a state assembly to say no, then they will have to come up with a superior argument. For me, it is a welcome development. You see, the State Electoral Commission, with due respect, haven't got the wherewithal to conduct elections in this country. If you look at the proposed amendment too, you see that even presently the money coming from to the INEC is charged from the consolidated fund. So they don't need to go cap in hand to the state, to the executive, for money to run independent electoral body. So if you now give that responsibility to INEC, to me, it's like we are saying we are now ready for the people at the for the votes of the people at the grassroots to be counted. In your commentary, you said that the observation all over the country now is that any government in power clears the chairmanship.
It's not observation. That's fact on ground.
Yes, any government in power clears 100% of the seats in the chairmanship and Chancellorship election. So there must be reason for this. When you look at even states where you have elections were conducted by INEC for state elections, you see some element of one representative in the House of Assembly, two in some. There must be reason for all this.
But,
So why do we have
Honourable
100%?
Ajayi,
Yes.
are you also not contradicting your own position?
That what?
What you said is important that we have power rather than being concentrated at the federal reduced. Now, if you are transferring this function of the state INEC back to the federal, so whereas the other argument is relieve them of many of the assignments they are doing. So rather than deleting or scrapping CX, why don't we like modify it or find something to resolve it?
No, you see, you are not looking at the Independent Electoral Commission, quote and unquote, as an independent body. You are still thinking that they are an agent or agency of the federal government.
Federal government still appoints the umpire. It appoints the rec. It appoints the national chairman and all of that ones. So,
Well, so
what
there's also
otherwise?
there's also an inherent checks in all this. Inherent checks, even by the Constitution. The members of the commission will have to pass through the National Assembly. That is constitutionally provided for. That is not in dispute. Up to the state rec, they must pass through the National Assembly. For me, I think deleting that section from the Constitution is not hostility to federalism, as some will want us to believe. It is not. We must look at it. What is the law, position of the law on our electoral body? There is this word independent. The question is whether or not they are really independent in the true sense of the word is for another time. It's another debate entirely. But the Constitution made them independent. There are inherent checks on the issues of appointment and the rest. You may also want to say that, okay, state electoral body to pass through this various state house of assembly, and that's also a check. But when you look at it holistically, you will know that the wherewithal to conduct elections is not there at the state level. They still go cap in hand to the chief executive. The chief executive still, tampers with even their timetable. They determine when you should have this election. They are not, with due respect, they are not, in the real sense of the word, close to independent as the Constitution, tends to protect. But the point I'm making is that it is not in any way taking away the call for federalism. No, I disagree with that. Because, the Constitution still retains Section 7 of the Constitution. The amendment, with the amendment, Section 7 of the Constitution is still intact. In that the State House of Assembly will also have to guarantee the existence of democratically elected local government system through a law which will provide for structure, composition, and finance whatsoever. It's only Section 162 of the Constitution with this amendment that will be abrogated, because the issue of joint account, which people are now saying, okay, let the joint account be out of it. So for me, scrapping or deleting the state electoral body from our constitution is never an hostility.
Okay, when you say the state electoral commission does not have the wherewithal, I assume we are talking about finance to do it. Now, if you are transferring that, because this is an additional burden, it's an additional assignment on the INEC, Independent National, now. So how are they going to survive with the wherewithal and extra burden on the federal allocation for them again? In this era where we are talking and planning over how to even reshape how we spend.
You see, unfortunately, we have to decide in this country whether we are ready for what they call a process of election or otherwise. How do I mean? If the Constitution provides for tenure, 4 years, definitely those who are occupying positions of authorities in Nigeria will have to leave after the expiration of their tenure, and election must be conducted. What we should also clamor is essentially to let those who are in position of authority know that the the election, um, the Independent Electoral Commission is giving the wherewithal in terms of finance to be able to do their job. And if we pay lawmakers, the chief executive goes home with their own pay, and everybody, the civil servant, is also going with their own pay. There is no reason why we should not fund the electoral body
All right,
to
Honourable
conduct
Ajayi,
elections in this country.
one other um, outcome of this amendment,
Yes.
if it eventually scales to the uh, State Assembly's consideration and, of course, a presidential assent, is that INEC will not be saddled with more responsibilities. People before now are still not satisfied with the capacity of INEC as regards conducting elections, not only governorship elections, but also by-elections in some states, and of course the presidential elections. Will we not be saddling INEC with too much responsibility if we are telling them to conduct elections in Senate and for local governments and LCDs?
Well, the timing, I want to assume, is not going to be the same. So there will be ample opportunity for them to plan if they really want to do their job. We have the presidential election, the state election, the governorship and what have you, coming up about the same time. And if you recall, recently the INEC came out with what they called, is it timetable now? Where they said, okay, we'll be doing elections during this particular period of the year, in the year of election. That is planning. I do hope that if we give them the opportunity to put this in practice, certainly they should be able to, perform their constitutional responsibility. I do not share the sentiment that they have too much at hand. No, the purpose of setting up electoral bodies is to conduct election, organize and conduct elections. So still telling us that they cannot, finding fault with that certainly is something that nobody should appreciate, because that is their only responsibility. So they need to sit down and plan, come up with reasonable timetable, and then means of doing their job. What is important is to appeal to those in authority to at the right time release fund, because you can't organize and conduct election without fund. So once this fund is being released to the INEC, I believe that they should be able to perform their constitutional responsibility. Where that is not done, then they have nothing doing in the office.
Honourable Ajayi, let's try and trace how the State Electoral Commission come to become a loner in this country. You won an election and became chairman from an election supervised and conducted by State Independent Electoral Commission.
Yes.
So how do they get themselves into this stage where Nigerians no longer trust their ability to conduct election? What do you think are the unseen factors behind this?
First of all, is the interference by the chief executives at the state level, and I say this with due respect to those concerned. If you have the chief executive at the state telling the electoral body that we haven't got money now to conduct election, don't forget that, I think I read it somewhere in the proposed amendment too. I know as a matter of fact that there's this charge from the consolidated fund for the INEC, I think in the 2010 electoral act or something. But what I'm saying is that if the state executive will tell the electoral body at the state level that we haven't got fund. And so let's give us time to get money to pay salary and do some other things. And then the tenure that has just expired, let us put caretaker there. So I see it as the first problem is the interference by the state executive. Two is lack of fund to do this, to perform their responsibilities. So how do you now blame the state? They haven't got the money. And it is not easy to conduct election. So it is better you leave the INEC with this responsibility once and for all. They conduct election throughout Nigeria, and they've done it before. What we need to do is to strengthen the INEC. Let's strengthen the INEC. Let us fund the INEC. Then let's begin to tell them, like, I want to see a situation where Nigerians will wake up and go and file action against INEC on an aspect of their responsibilities, so that they will know that they have a very serious task in this country. The Constitution provides for their powers and responsibilities. What is important, as I've said, is for us to fund INEC and to strengthen them.
Now, talking about strengthening INEC, the clamor for so long is that we should begin to build institutions in Nigeria so that they can run effectively without a strong personality. The little confidence Nigerians have now in INEC was built by Professor Ayodo basically because the 2015 elections was largely seen as fair and credible, largely seen in court. Now, would you say that we've been able to build INEC as an institution now that the guy is out, a strong personality? Can we say INEC is now a strong, independent institution that can stand without any strong personality and can deliver even with added responsibility of local government elections?
Why not? Why not if not? Okay, Nigerian found Ayodo because we feel that we can put him to test. And so Ayodo performed. So also there are Nigerians who can handle these responsibilities. The only thing is that those who are vested with the responsibility of appointing people should look critically at particular individuals that will form the structure of INEC. If Nigeria discover Ayodo, we can also discover another Ayodo. And then time will tell if we can get enough personalities in this country that will even perform more than Ayodo. So I do not believe that. I think what is important, as you have said, is to strengthen the institutions. Let's build this institution. If Ayodo has done his own job without building the institution of INEC, then I don't think he'll be happy wherever he is.
With the Independent National Electoral Commission conducting local government elections, before now we have come to get used to, you just mentioned a caretaker committee or sole administrator or transition committee, as it were, in states. With this proposal, will it now eliminate it? Or do you think INEC itself will still have to work with the state government when you have the tenure of the local government expired? That's one. The other one is this amendment does not appear to have taken care of tenure limitation for local government administrators. In some states it is 3, in some it is 2. In some, it is at the whims and caprices of the governor. And I know that in 1999, at the assumption of this republic, every local government in the country had the same tenure before they were inaugurated. So do you think INEC will be able to, or how do you think they will resolve this?
Well, let me say first of all that the deleting 6 State Independent Electoral Commission will definitely improve the integrity of local government election. It will also make the election, at the local level to conform with international standard. I mean, a situation where, as you mentioned, what happened to the issue of tenure. Tenure, determination of tenure, in my own view, belongs to Section 7 of the Constitution. A state assembly will have to make a law for their local government law of that particular state, where the issue of tenure will be decided. Now, the INEC will be able to monitor that. You don't forget that we have resident electoral commissioners of INEC in each state, with each INEC having their own apparatus in each state of the federation. So if they are in state A, they'll be able to know that the tenure commenced on 1st January 2017, will end another 3 years. So they are already preparing for the election of the local government in that particular state. That's why I said it will improve the integrity of LG elections, and then they will be able to do it in such a way that it will conform with the international standard.
So that's an assumption that the funding is
the funding. Yes, the fund. No. The funding is from the consolidated fund. The funding is from the whatever INEC is handling. So that's why I say that we must,
which is domiciled in CBN.
Yes, we must make sure that money is allocated and released. The money should be there ordinarily. That is the constitutional provision. The money should be there, but releasing it, then allocating that particular fund, as you have mentioned, will subject to availability of fund for the whole of the federation. And so what we should do is to prioritize. We must ensure that if we are ready to stay with democracy, so to say, we must have constant election. You see, the constitutional and legal, whatever logistic framework guide the conduct of election will be improved upon, particularly at the state level, because they don't need now. Even don't forget that for local government election as it is now, you cannot conduct local government election without collecting the voters register from the INEC. Why is the law not saying that each state electoral body should do what is called voters registration?
No, I think that is because they don't have their own data, so that's why for now they are making use of INEC's register. No. I'm sure there are some states who are already working on that before now. But
no, they cannot even do that. With due respect, they can't do that. The Constitution will not allow them. Okay. The Constitution says the
voters, the national voters. Okay, quickly, because we have to take the break for the national news. Another issue I also want you to speak on is the Constitution does not recognize LCDAs. So how would INEC do that when there's an election?
Straight answer. INEC, as it is, once the amendment sailed through, will have to conduct elections in the constitutionally guaranteed 774 local governments.
So what happened to the various LCDs?
I don't know.
So that's
because even if you look at it, even the creation of local government must pass through the National Assembly. The National Assembly too must say yes and be ready to list those newly created local governments in the Constitution. I am not aware of one. Even the Lagos state that started.
Oh, no, sorry, because we have to take this break. I'm sorry, we have to take this break for the national news to come up at 10. When we come back, we'll still have a lawyer, politician, Honourable Habeeb Ajayi, with us looking at the latest attempt to amend the 1999 Constitution, specifically now the scrapping of the State Independent Electoral Commission. We'll be back. All right, yes, sir, it's still Daybreak Show on Rock City 101.9 FM. Citizens Forum this morning, looking at the latest attempt to amend to give us a fresh constitution, the 1999 Constitution. Specifically, we are looking at the delete the new proposal is making on the state independent electoral commission. All local government electoral matters will now be handled by the independent national electoral commission. Like we said, it's not the final stop yet. It still has to come down to states. We must have two-thirds, they say, simple majority two-thirds, which is about 24 states, and the president must also append his signature before we can now say we have a new constitution amended. And we have with us somebody who's been in it before. We are hearing from his experience, Honourable Habeeb Ajayi. Um, we are looking at the issue about the LCDA and then the other local governments before that break. Will this be the end to creation of LCDAs or fresh local governments in the country?
Well, no, that may not be the end because the constitution provides for creation of local government, the process to follow. What I know is that after following the process, the newly created local government or LCDA will still have to be listed in the constitution by the approval of the National Assembly. I'm not aware of any that has been done since the 1999 constitution came into existence, and I do hope that time will come when the National Assembly will take a look at the newly created local governments across the country and begin to find a means of listing such local governments in the constitution. To say that will be the end, I'm also, I do not know if it will be practicable for INEC to conduct election into those LCDAs, because they will only be able to conduct election in the constitutionally listed local governments in Nigeria. That may be the beginning of the problem. Except those has been listed. If the newly created local government find their names in the constitution, then fine. I think INEC will be able to do that. But where it is not, I wouldn't know how that's how they'll be able to do that. I would not be able to say now.
All right, one other amendment that the Senate carried out is independent candidacy. If you just oppose this with INEC conducting elections in the local government, do you think this would deepen democracy and free up space for so many capable and credible candidates at the grassroots who sometimes are shortchanged by imposition of candidates by governors or party leaders in the states?
Well, for me, independent candidacy will strengthen democracy in Nigeria. But whether those independent candidates will be able to get the wherewithal to face election in this country is another thing. But at least we are starting from somewhere. If you look at your immediate environment, you might be able, this might be possible, perhaps at the local and at the state level. I do not know about how a single Nigeria, without running under a political party, will be able to win an election as a president in this country. Ditto for the state. But at the grassroots level, yes, you know me, I know you in the world. And I made up my mind, I'm going to vote for Mr. Dele, whether you like it or not. That's our person. So you can see that that's a very close, it's a community, a close community. You know me, I know you. But when it comes to a larger society like a state, it's going to be very serious. But it is possible. Perhaps you take it down. If MKO Abiola had run as an independent candidate, can we say he will still not have won the election? I think the answer is Nigerians should start ruminating about that. There are other Nigerians who can still come out as an independent candidate. But such a person must work very, very hard, because you need to put your structures in every villages, every community, every ward, every local government in Nigeria to be able to achieve this. But it is kudos to democracy if we start with that.
All right, at this junction, we'll throw the studio lines open and other platforms that you can reach us this morning. 0809-868-7344, 0909-146-9670 at the numbers to call. You can also reach us via the short code 32120 is the number.
Sir.
Ola Animasham is the name, calling from Abeokuta. I want to appreciate Barrister Habeeb Ajayi in the house. Very beautiful submission. But based on particularly the second point Honourable Johnson Olufatifi submitted last, which is the issue of federalism, I will be having a contrary view with Barrister Habeeb Ajayi. How can we justify devolution of power? How can we justify self-determination through federalism, and we are still trying to centralize the electoral system? I think in this situation we are running away from our shadow. We are trying to hide behind one finger. Yes, I agree that it's a common denomination throughout the federation that usually the ruling party in every state controls the elections of the local government at the end of the day indirectly. They control, they get everything in their pocket. But I have not seen in this country so far any challenge from myself inclusive and all other political parties in the law court that would have been able to rubbish, and I sustain that word rubbish, any state governor so far. To confirm, we have seen it. It is an insinuation that we can put across from what we have seen. But there has been no court verdict from anybody to confirm this, that every governors in this state are perpetrated fraud. That is number one.
Quickly, number two.
Number two, I said we are running away from our shadow. Is it impossible for us, even at the state electoral level, to guarantee free and fair elections? Why must we resort to INEC? What gives us the impression that even, and I repeat, even if INEC does it, such a thing will not repeat itself?
All right, thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Let me first of all react to my friend Honourable Olufatuki. My only fear is that we still look at INEC as an agency of the federal government, but that's not the real situation. Granted that there might be some influence here and there, but INEC, by the constitutional provision, remain independent body who charges the fund from the consolidated fund, meaning that they don't need to rely on anybody, unlike a state electoral body that, as I said, will have to go cap in hand to ask for funds to be able to conduct local government election. So this, I believe, will give opportunity to the state, to the electoral body in Nigeria to conduct elections. It does not enhance the credibility and independence of SEC when state governors, in collaboration with assemblies, unilaterally change timetable for the conduct of LG elections. They'll tell you this is the time we are ready for the election, and that will be the time. So, challenge such as timing of release of fund is also there at the state level. But when we look at it holistically from the federation account, what we need to do is to get INEC to perform their constitutional responsibility in such a way that you and I will be able to come to a conclusion that they've done their best. So that is one aspect. For Mr. Ola Akinyemi.
Ola Animashaun.
No. Before Ola Akinyemi, yeah. I think I'm also at home with you on the issue of supporting the election of SEC. You see, if you recall, some of our chief executive at the state level dissolved even the so-called State Electoral Commission at will, and chairpersons and members are relieved of their appointment irrespective of the constitutional cover which guarantees their tenure. I'm sure we all know in this country, one day we just wake up. We have not seen that as far as INEC is concerned. No, we have not seen it. Even the fact that, with due respect, the President Jonathan, whether or not he believe Jega will do his bidding or not. Even thereafter, they're not Jega's tenure comes to an end before the man left the office. So these are issues. I believe that INEC will be able to handle this election. INEC will be better focused to deliver a credible election when there is constitutional certainty of the tenure of the local government. Because with this amendment now, I don't see how INEC will go and conduct elections when the tenure of one executive government at the local level has not expired, or will start conducting elections whether at will. No, there will be monitoring of the tenure, and they will always be at home to conduct election at this level. Well, my brother Olanima Shaun, thank you for this observation. Now we have one thing we must all be ready. Let us take it as a starting point. You have asked me how can we justify true federalism with deletion of SEC. Truly, federalism is all about control, particularly at the state level. And you have asked me why is it impossible for SECs to conduct credible local government election in their respective states. I still wondering, I wondered, and I'm still wondering why it is impossible for them. But again, if you look at it very well, the way it is structured, the way the constitution structure SEC is such that it is called independent electoral body just by name, because such their funds are not charged from the consolidated fund. That's number one problem. It means that they will have to go to the chief executive at the state level to ask for logistics, which will be released according to the whims and caprice of the state executive at the state level. So I say there is no financial autonomy for the SEC, and governor will be able to, to force electoral body at the state level to organize election purely on politically motivated concerns. So these are issues. It is better we give the responsibility to one electoral body in Nigeria, and let us see how they are able to handle this. INEC has too much power. That's from Mr. Yinka. They already have too much on their hand, and why are we vesting them with another responsibility? I've said it, except we strengthen this institution, we must begin to let them know that they must perform their constitutional responsibility. And of course, we must appeal to the government to ensure the prompt release and provision of logistics for the INEC. If we are able to do this, I believe that this issue of deletion of SECs, States Independent Electoral Body, from the Constitution is good for us at this time, honestly.
All right, let's take more calls. We'll go to the tweets and messages shortly.
No, it does not. I think the issue is this listing, this
that's what
this approval, by the National Assembly. You see, the point is that the National Assembly will ensure that you comply with 1, 2, 3, and then they move away from that and then do their own. So they must come out. No, it does not. Once you done what you are supposed to do, then you place the remaining one in the
National Assembly,
on the desk.
Okay, now to the issue. Now, really, something just came from what Bakane and Olanima Shaun. I'm going to go back to it. Can we blame the electoral commission in the states for the inability of the opposition to win seats?
No, you cannot 100% blame them, but their situation has turned to he who paid the piper dictate the tune. But it's just that, do you have the wherewithal to perform your responsibility? Are you not under any form of influence? We have not seen situation where a state electoral body were given that atmosphere to work with. Like I said, when you dissolve the independent body, so-called, of electoral body at will, you remove the personnel, the chairman or chairperson, and then before the expiration, and you say they can go, they know that you can do this at any point in time. I know a lot of cases up to Court of Appeal on the removal of electoral bodies. The court has consistently held that such removal before the expiration of the tenure is illegal, is null and void. That is still the position of the courts in Nigeria. But as our state executive stop doing this, they still continue with it. So that is one problem. But we believe that you cannot just do that with INEC. So that is one issue. Now, the issue of delivering credible election. At the state level, as at now, you cannot say you have constitutional certainty on the tenure of office of LG. Because at some point you see a situation in which state government will just dissolve and say, okay, we put caretaker. And again, the courts in Nigeria have consistently held that caretaker is an aberration of Section 7, which guarantees democracy at the LG level. But whether we are complying with all these decisions of the court or we are acting in deviance is another point in view. Again, when you look at the autonomy, are the state electoral body being forced to conduct election that are politically motivated? You just see a situation in which Mr. Governor's tenure will expire in 6 months and he wants to put his people there. INEC go and announce within 90 days we want to conduct this election. And at the end of it, the result is what you know will be. So I believe that we must strengthen our institution, and INEC is one body that we must all ensure that that institution is strengthened.
All right, let's quickly do justice to the tweets and messages. This one says, I support scrapping of SEC and amended as amended by Senate. OCSEC is still owing ad hoc staff in the last local government poll held in October 2018. Governors appoint, elect, determine, dictate local government and LCDA chairmen and councillors. Voters waste time voting on election day. That's Mercy Femi sending him that. Pukola Samson says it would have been better if INEC is given a superintendent role over CX rather than scrapping CX totally. Edun Abayomi says if the state assemblies could vote against their own autonomy, Nigerians shouldn't expect too much from them on this CX and other amendments. Mercy Femi once again says, I can't feel the impact of LG and LCDA ESCOs in Ogun State since they are appointed by the governor. One can point to a project being carried out. Lawal Monsuru tweeted this, I support INEC conducting local government election. Imagine opposition winning 15 local government chairmanship. The governor will sit up and perform better. Yabi Da Vinci says this constitutional amendment around by the National Assembly is strictly for the political class and not the masses. If National Assembly wants to really do a good amendment, local government should have statutory 2 or 4 years and should be given more rights, like community policing and rights to generate and distribute electricity. That is what. Okay, and that was the end of that tweet. All right, let's go back to the calls. We'll come back to the tweets and messages.
All right,
later.
just one call. We're just taking one call. Hello. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, morning. Please speak up, please.
My name is Paul American.
Okay.
Let me communicate that I'm really enjoying this information. Yeah. The welcome idea. Why should the state election, I don't know what they call it, non-election. Why can't they also conduct election for governorship candidates if they are qualified enough? I think what we need to do now is that if the federal INEC, the local federal INEC is conducted, fine. I would have preferred if the officers, definition of non-governmental organizations, what am I talking is that from NBA, let's have some members, I'll be an officer. From NUJ, from any, even artisans, even the market women, let them have some officers, let them have some nomination that will be the officer that will conduct this election in combination with the federal INEC, local federal INEC. Now, even those officers will not be the superior ones, the ordinary members from this organization. So if you're a member of an NBA, and for example, if I have to be a lawyer, I know you are the one that will send down there, and you go in that place to do what is not good. When you come back, we will deal with you, and we will let you know. So that would mean that people INEC first. Let the federal INEC conduct. And we also should contribute. So don't let it be that it's the commission, whatever that we appoint everybody. Organization must send people down there. They must be there. They must be ready to monitor it. It's going to be a combination of things. What the people are doing, and that's some institution. So if the politicians know that those that are coming are the people that want to vote us in, and they are not ready to collect money or to do anything, then they will be ready to campaign when they are ready to do the right thing. And the people will know that no, we have sent them there. This is who we vote for. And those who will monitor their votes and make sure that what they, I cannot imagine when the state INEC will tell me that the particular environment, how many people voted, and I know that in my community we are no more than 50. What am I talking about?
Okay.
A lot of abnormalities are going on. It's not let the federal INEC conduct it. Let them give them more.
All right, thank you.
And,
Thank you very much.
Just add this to it from what Gafara said. If if the state electoral commission says 500 voted, whereas we had not more than 50 now, why don't we? I think Olan also mentioned it. So are we not just unfairly accusing the governors and the electoral commissions if or since nobody has gone to formally protest or challenge successfully, or we don't have evidence to say truly what we have been saying is correct, that he who plays the piper dictates the tune?
Well, for me, the issue is beyond that. Honestly, for us to have credible election in this country, it is important that our electoral body should be truly independent and be given the wherewithal to conduct the elections. Until we are able to do this as a country, whether it is federal INEC or it is state electoral body, the result will still be the same. What is important is for everybody put in position of responsibility to perform his constitutional role the way it should be performed, and we must always believe that we all have dates with history in this country. If we are able to do it right, then our people will be able to say that we've done our best. Otherwise,
Okay, let's wrap it up with those tweets. Odewole Babasare says scrapping of SIEC is good, but I doubt if it will change anything because the party ruling the state will still win local government polls. Independent candidacy is good. I believe if the candidates perform locally, he or she should be able to win state election. This constitutional amendment exercise is giving makeup to a terminally ill cancer patient. That's Yemi Da Vinci. All right, and Yemi Da Vinci once again says, however, SIECs, like many other things that have worked in other climes, have been a terrible way of conducting elections, and they need to die. Honourable Ajayi, can states retain SIECs just for conducting LCDA's elections if the SIECs abrogation becomes law?
no, certainly no. That would be against the constitutional provision.
Alright, so that is where we draw the curtains on Citizens Forum this beautiful Monday morning. Thank you so much, all those who called, those who sent messages, those who tweeted, and those who posted on our Facebook page. We also want to appreciate all of you who also just sat down there quietly, listening and enjoying the show. We appreciate you nonetheless. Thank you very much, Honourable Habeeb Ajayi.
Thank you
so
very much. I appreciate it.
We appreciate you too. Alright, that's the show this morning. I am Toby Joseph. Have a wonderful day.
And tomorrow morning, by the grace of God, we will continue with this. We'll look at the independent candidacy and another clause in the constitutional amendment. Dele Ayodo is my name. I say God bless you all. God bless Nigeria and God bless Rock City.